Good morning and welcome to another episode of Sherman Wealth Wisdom with Ashley and Brad. Ashley, good morning. How are
Hi,
you?
how's it going? Good. What about you?
Good. We're coming at you from now different views. Ashley is home on a second potential lockdown as the virus cases spike, and our Governor Hogan is making a big announcement today, made one 2 days ago, and our county has limited Thanksgiving, all fun and restaurant eating. So as a recent college grad, how are you feeling about the current situation of the virus?
Well, back in March, I guess I would have assumed this kind of would have been over by now. So it's a little unfortunate that we're on the cusp of a second wave and this might all be locking down again, but I'm staying positive and making the most of it. What about you?
Good. Maybe I feel like I should be locking down again. I was joking to you before we started recording that I went out to my favorite shopping center to get a bagel and a breakfast juice, and not sure when that will end, but I'm enjoying it now while we can. Cases are spiking everywhere, and we just want everyone to be safe and healthy, of course. We've had a little bit of shift, as we've talked about offline, in our Thanksgiving plans. I know you've had your plans cancel.
Yeah.
Going to be an interesting time for sure. But we wanted to get into, the mindset of the investor right now, given the news narrative, given we've been talking a lot about on our blog and on the snaps, behavioral biases that impact our investment decisions. You weren't working, you're still in school at the time of the first kind of stock market tantrum as it related to the cases spiking when the NBA closed, and believe it or not, the case numbers are even higher than when they were when the NBA closed its doors on March 11th. So, talking about investing, talking about the election, we have a new blog on the website about biases and how some clients and prospects said to me in March, don't want to invest any money until the headlines slow for the cases. And we see that we're up probably 30-40% from then, 65% or so off of the lows of March 23rd, which is just an interesting thing to do, is that you can't follow headlines as it relates to investment decisions. We see the same folks potentially thinking about their political beliefs. A lot of people, as we saw on the snaps and the news, were selling out of their 401ks right before the election, or loading up on their 401ks, depending on which side of the political aisle they stand. And so it's just interesting to look back at the data. Of course, hindsight biases and other things that we've talked about are interesting, but you now have the cusp of the second wave, and what will people do as it relates to their investments?
Yeah, totally agree. It will be interesting to see, like we were saying earlier, some people were waiting for the cases to get worse. Now we're at 10.2 million and the market's great. So it's just a confusing time and it's hard to gauge what's going to happen. So like you said, keep your long-term plan always and really don't panic and just like ride it out, like you said. And there's also been a lot of talks about whether people are going to resume travel or not. So Brad, what are your thoughts on that?
We saw Monday, it's been a crazy week. The weeks seem like months as it relates to the news cycle. We've had about 4 months of news in the last week. So it's been crazy for the market to digest, between the election, between the uncertainty of the election, between the Saturday, Biden being declared president-elect, Trump not conceding still. And as we're recording this, it's Thursday morning. Of course, there's a big runoff January 5th for control of the Senate. Monday, the biggest news was the Pfizer vaccine. So we saw a lot of people talking about how excited they were to get back on a cruise ship or get back on a plane. I am not going on either for quite some time. You're seeing this morning, I saw on CNBC, JetBlue announcing more routes from the Northeast to Florida. We talked about in the snaps, the buy one, get one free offer for the
Yeah.
holidays. So it'd be very interesting to see how travel resumes. What are your thoughts? Are you hopping on a plane anytime soon, thinking about travel, or you're thinking about locking down again? So it'd be interesting to see how that happens.
Yeah, my family and I are definitely don't have any plans to hop on a plane. If anything, I guess drive somewhere just to get away for the weekend. But even so, that seems very slim and far away right now. So I just don't know. It's a lot of unknown and unexpected. And so we'll see how this all plays out in the next few weeks and if this second wave puts us back into a permanent lockdown again.
Yeah, you saw, an interesting dichotomy, if you will, in the market of this value to growth discussion, which we've had for quite some time. But Monday and Tuesday were really exacerbated the moves. Monday was what they're calling a 15 sigma event between value and growth, meaning it's extremely, extremely rare occurrence where, the hotel, travel, leisure, cruise, all these companies were up, tremendously on Monday on the hopes of a vaccine. But that's, as we've said, shifted right against maybe the sample size is too small, but everyone we're talking to, I haven't heard anybody who's really that excited to travel again. So you have, these investment vehicles, these stocks that are up big on, future hopes of increased demand. So, that's one thing to really consider and think about as you're making an investment, that you're not buying today's cash flows, that you're really buying future cash flows. So it's interesting to see and hear, especially as, will people be going back to work when there's a vaccine? But as you're saying, all these states are pretty much shutting down. So there's an interesting shift in sentiment and, future thoughts on the virus. So we'll continue to track that for you. What else are you seeing out there?
Yeah, so we saw another story yesterday that we were talking about internally that 38% of college students worry that they might not have enough money to make it through this last semester just because of whatever telework orders, and sometimes some of their part-time jobs aren't allowing them to come in and get that extra cash to help them through. But then we saw another article that said maybe a Biden presidency might offer free college tuition for some. So what are your thoughts there? And like, do you have any advice for anybody who might be in those shoes?
I mean, it's just been, my football team, Wisconsin, has basically stopped playing football due to COVID spikes. You've seen article after article about pure college towns decimated. Their economy has been totally decimated by the lack of students there. The article that you brought up, which I hadn't even thought about, which is, college students who are either on student loan or need to work to pay for their tuition, having a side hustle at, traditional college jobs such as waiter, waitressing, or any of these jobs that are really not available right now. So it's really scary for not only the economy, but also these local economies that have been impacted so hard by COVID. University of Maryland, where you went, and which is the local school to us here, is saying for the students not to come back after Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a very interesting winter as it relates to economic data and then these local economies that we love so much, that are really college towns and that thrive on football season and people going into their town for commerce and staying over. So it's really sad to see, both as a finance individual and then also, of course, as a sports fan, to not to be able to do these things and seeing University of Michigan totally empty and these types of things, and these towns, as I said, that are thriving on this economic activity just really impacted. So unfortunately, it's trickled down to the students that you brought up, and it's really awful. We'll extend as we have the opportunity. We've blocked off 3 hours per week for pro bono work during COVID, and we want to make sure that people know to go to our site and book a 30-minute consultation, that if there's anything that they want to understand about, whether it's things that have been passed in Congress that may be able to help them out, the student loan interest deferments, or any of the things that they might want to know, and just even if it's just talking to another person about their budget or their finances during this time, we're here for you. And as a member of the community, we're happy to help in any way that we can.
Yeah, that's great. So I think that wraps up our conversation for today's episode, but thanks everybody for tuning in. It was great to connect with you guys again.
Yep. Everyone, this is our new setup, so enjoy it. And we'll be coming back with you following these stories and more. If you want information on our daily and weekly thoughts, hit us up at info@shermanwealth.com to inquire about our daily snaps. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe. Have a great day.